Greetings and welcome, people, and I do bid you a very warm welcome indeed. Now, some of you may or may not have been wondering where I got to. It's been a while. I think it's something like 5 months since I was last out on the bike, and probably a bit longer ago than that since I put up a video, so you might be happy about that, you might not be happy about that, you might not even be bothered one way or the other, but here we are, back on my beautiful bike, my babe. And I just thought I might do a quick run out to just sort of offer a little bit of an explanation as to where I got to. Now, mainly the biggest issue obviously has been we've just gone through winter, and the days when I used to ride in all weathers are long gone. When I was a much younger, much more resilient person. These days I ride for leisure and pleasure, and the thought of riding in ice and snow and freezing rain might cause me neither leisure nor pleasure. I don't mind riding in a bit of cold. A nice crisp sunny day is always a very pleasant environment to be out in, but anything where there is even the slightest hint that my beautiful bike, my babe, might get damaged, even if it's only by salt and grit, I'm not too keen on that at all. So with that in mind, and bearing the fact in mind that I do sometimes ride over the winter, but not very often, as I've just been alluding to, I have been wanting to do something about the main fairing panels on this bike for quite some time. Now, this bike has only been over on its side on the ground twice in the time I've had it. One was my fault, wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, and that was when it got dropped on the left hand side, the other right. And the other time was when some of the local scumbags, upon seeing my bike parked in my front garden, decided that it would be highly amusing for them to come into the garden and move my bike to try and set the alarm off, and when that didn't work, they decided to push the bike over so it went over onto its right hand side. So basically both main fairing panels have been in contact, albeit in a stationary manner, with the ground, and as a result they were somewhat chipped and dinked a little bit, not scraped or grazed, because the bike, as I say, the bike wasn't actually moving, but certainly enough that it was noticeable, certainly to me, and I didn't like it. It used to bug the heck out of me, so I've considered over the years various things, such as buying new old stock panels, or even buying some used panels and getting them painted up. And then I thought to myself, well, I'm going to buy used panels and get them painted up, why not get mine done? And so December just gone, a good friend of my younger daughter's, who actually happens to be a paint shop professional, offered to get them done for me at his place of work, but in his own time. So it wasn't a fully paid job, it was more of a favour. and I do sincerely appreciate that. If you ever get to watch this, Pete, thank you so much. Absolute star, sir. So, took them off the bike, stripped all of the interior trim and the Union flag decals off, so that I basically gave him bare panels ready for him to work on. Now, of course, he's doing me a favour, so there's no way I can badger him or rush him or give him a date that I want them back by, so it's basically a case of hand them over to him and wait until he says they're done. And of course I had to give him the paint code as well, which well, not just the paint code, but I also had to get the two 1200 decals that go on each side, which I obtained from a company that does reproduction decals, and the ones they provided are absolutely brilliant. They are so close to the factory originals, it's almost impossible to tell them apart. So handed it all over to him and just sat and waited. And as a result, while the bike wasn't necessarily unrideable without the main fairing panels, those main fairing panels do form part of the support for the upper fairing where the headlight and the screen are. So I didn't want to go spending lots of time riding around with the fairing there bouncing around, possibly causing other issues that I would then have to fix. So I just basically decided that the December, January, February were basically written off. The weather wasn't great anyway, lots of storms, lots of rain. No, definitely no inducement to ride at all. So I was not that fussed about not being able to ride the bike. So when I did get the panels back, they were absolutely amazing. Again, as I say, Pete did a fantastic job. He only charged me for the paint, which I think was either a quarter or a half litre of Caspian blue, because he didn't actually have to respray the panels in their entirety. He basically fixed the areas that were damaged and blended into the rest of them. So basically the panels, I think, now are a very good match with the original panels on the bike. Well, actually, I know they are original panels, but they have been repainted, even if partially. And yeah, they look really good, really happy. The worst part of the damage, apart from the little chips on the sides, was actually the underneath of the belly pan, right behind the front wheel. As I'm sure you can imagine, when you're riding along, even on what looks like a fairly clean road, that front wheel is throwing up quite fine grit and dust all the while you're riding along, and that is basically sandblasting, grip blasting the belly pan part of the fairing. And I'm going to pull over here and do a little bit of a walk around with my Picasso Brave camera. So I think I'm going to pull in here. Stopped here once before to take some photos of my bike, and still haven't got the hang of these flipping boots. Oy. So yeah, when I got the fairing panels back, I thought, well, how do I prevent that grip blasting happening again? And the only thing I could think of was just open my helmet visor, was to get some paint protection film, some clear paint protection film. I did think about getting some blue carbon fibre effect, but the colour match would have been awful. So I just went with clear, which I applied myself. Not the greatest job, but it should suffice. It should protect the paint, and obviously at some point in the future, if I decide to get it done professionally, the paint film that I put on can be... I do apologise for the camera waving around. So it can be removed. Come on. Oh, maybe you can only change the screen when the... So as you can see, and I hope I've got this in shot because I can't see on the viewing screen. Yes, obviously the panels are, like I say, excellent match for the existing top fairing, tank, side fairings, mudguard. And it was the part down there behind the front wheel and underneath that had suffered the worst of the abrasion damage. And one thing you'll notice is that previously there was a reflective white stripe along each side of the fairing, just below the join, that I put on soon after I got the bike, and obviously that got removed as part of the repainting process. And at the moment I'm fairly confident that won't be going back on. I didn't think it looked that bad, but it was for a functional purpose. It was for if the bike was parked on the road at night, and didn't want anybody to not see it and drive into it, so it was just to basically give a bit of reflection. But I might think about that and maybe do something in the future. One thing I would like to do is to change the exhausts. While I am keen on keeping the bike as factory original as possible, I would like to get some Delcovic stainless steel exhausts on, but that's about 270 quid, which at the moment I don't have. Oh, excuse me, sniffing. So yeah, there we go. Let's get back on the road. Continue the little ride, little ridette. Trying out the new gloves I got for Christmas. They're not any specific brand, they're just a generic lightweight armoured motorcycle and other general use glove. Oh, excuse me, as you can see there, I hope the speedo's in shot, 64,000 miles on the clock, which I think for a bike with 60,000 miles on, I don't think Babe looks that bad. But then again, I might just be a little bit biased. Oh, and confession time. I did actually go out for a ride last Monday, Easter Monday, as it was here in the UK, and may very well have been wherever you are. And thought to do some videoing and recording. Don't you dare, thank you. When I got home, I found that I don't think that's pointing in the right direction. I found that I had not started recording on either of my cameras. So I had about an hour of commentary, but no video for it to go with. So, hey ho, when you don't ride and record for 5 or 6 months, that's the sort of thing that can happen. But one thing I did mention in that video, which none of you will see because there wasn't any video, is that I've been having problems with the back brake again. I did actually make an Instagram post showing the horrendous state of the pistons from my rear brake caliper. I knew that the surface coating on them was wearing, and I had been keeping an eye on them every time I serviced them, but obviously between the last service and me noticing something wasn't right, they decided to give up the ghost completely. So I had to order some new pistons. Because the caliper hadn't been working properly, the pads that were in there had been wearing unevenly, so I had to order some new pads as well. So I put new pistons in, new seals, and of course the new pads, and flushed and bled the brake system through. When I was out for the ride last Monday, almost zero back brake, almost nothing. So I thought, oh great, what have I done wrong? Oh, the other new thing that went in there was a anti-rattle spring. It's all on my Instagram. So when I got the chance, I thought to myself, I suspect that the back brake needs bleeding a little more, because there's quite a upward loop in the brake line leading to the caliper, and I suspect air had got trapped in there. So what I did was I took the caliper off and held it up so that the line was vertical, so any air in there would have gone up to the caliper. So then I put it back on the mounting bracket, bled it through, and that seemed to be a bit better, but it still wasn't functioning as I thought it should. So I took it off again, took the pads out again. I noticed that the pad on the piston side, the moving pad, was at a funny angle. And on closer inspection I noticed that the lugs that the pad retaining pins go through were actually caught down the end of the anti-rattle spring. So basically the pad wasn't moving. Even though the pistons were operating, it was only pushing the pad at an angle. So of course out come the pads, out comes the spring, and I decided that I would have to move the spring all the way towards one side of the caliper, where the pistons were, so that the lugs were for the anti-rattle, for the caliper pins wouldn't drop off the end, as it were. So I put that all back together, gave it another bleed through just to be sure, topped up the reservoir, and as of at the moment it feels so much better. It actually feels like it's doing something now, and there isn't nearly the pedal movement that there was before. So hopefully that's okay. Now I've just got to sort out the front brake, which is basically just down to corrosion on the discs. They're a bit juddery. That feels a bit better. Yeah, I don't really like to brake on corners, but I'm doing it to clean the discs off. I'm not jamming them on hard. Because in 2 months' time the bike has to go back in for its annual inspection, its MOT. I've just fitted new horns as well, because when I was checking through the electrical equipment before the ride last Monday, the horns didn't work. Didn't even so much as squeak. I did actually get them working, because obviously I didn't have any new ones to go on right then. But they were eBay cheapies anyway. I was surprised they lasted as long as they did. I think they've been on the bike about 3 years, 3.5 years, something like that. I'm not going to be able to find out when I ordered them. I suppose I could look through my email to see when I got the order confirmation. But this time I've gone for some Hellas. This bike comes as standard with twin horns, so fitting twin what the Hella ad so amusingly calls air horns. They're not air horns. They're the snail type horns, but they're fully electric. Is no problem because the wiring's already there. The current, the wiring's up to the job for twin horns, so they're just a straight swap in. And anything you buy aftermarket is going to be better than the pathetic little beat things that come with the bike as standard from the factory. In fact, I might even give you a little beep in a minute once we're clear, just to. That's my horns, if you'll pardon the expression. So there we are. I think that's enough for today. To say thank you for stopping by and taking a look. Hope you're all well. COVID did finally arrive at my household over the last month or two, after 2 years of keeping it at bay, but there we go. I think it was just a matter of time. So yes, hope you're keeping well, and I'll speak to you again on the next one. Thank you very much. Cheerio for now. Bye.